Okay, now we have the enemy. We want the enemy to do something to the player, right? So whenever the player comes into contact with the enemy, we want to reduce the health points on the player. Well, the first thing we need to do, obviously, is to create health points for the player. And it's going to be very similar to how we created the coin variable in the data state machine here. So let's start with that. Click on Edit next to Data so you have access to the state machine. And let's go to Variables. Let's create another int variable. Let's call this HP. And I'm going to set it to 100, and that's going to be the default value. Okay. And then similarly, we want a event when the enemy hits the player, but because the enemy, if you click on it, open up the collider, is not a trigger, so we can't use a trigger event here. But what we want to do instead is a collider collision event, collision 2D event. And let's create an event called player hit. So that when the enemy collides with the player, we're going to send this event. Let's just set that up first. We can say player hit. Okay, now similarly, let's make the enemy, let's first rename it enemy block. And then let's add a tag. I'm going to use enemy as the tag for this enemy object. Go to our player data state machine. I'm going to check for, again, click on that. And then it's going to show you all the tags. We're going to check for enemies. So when the player collides with any object with the tag enemy, it's going to say players hit, and we're going to go to this event, this state. Okay, let's see if that's properly hooked up. Apply. Okay, good. So when the enemy hits the player, we went down to this state. Okay, now the state is working. Let's tell the state what we want to do when the player is hit by the enemy. Right, so let's do similar to what we did with the coin. We're going to do int add. We're going to reduce the HP by -30. Right. We're going to reduce it by 30. So every time we hit the enemy, this number will go down by 30. And then we want to check and see if this number is below 0, because when it's below 0, then it's game over and we are going to restart the level. So we'll do a int compare. So we're going to compare this number, the HP, with 0, and when it's equal or less than 0, then we're going to send it to the game over sequence. Let's create an event for it, game over. Okay, so let's hook up the condition to the transition. When HP is 0, or is equal or less than 0, go to game over. Otherwise, we're going to go back to idle. Okay, otherwise we go to the finished transition, go back to idle. And then in the game over state, I want to just have a simple sort of effect where time slows down, the camera fade out to black for about in 2 seconds, and then we'll restart the level. Okay, so let's just do that quickly. Scale time. Scale time allows you to change the time, basically the internal clock of your game. Right? So 1 is normal time, you can speed it up. So 2 would be going twice as fast. What I'm going to do here, so I'm going to change it to 0.5. So when the character dies, the time slows down. Okay, and then I'm going to do a camera fade out to black in 2 seconds. When that's done, let's go to the finish event, and then we'll restart the level. Now, one thing we want to remember to do is reset the scale time back to 1, otherwise even after you restore the level, the time will stay at half the speed, right? So and we don't want that. And then okay, finally restart level. Okay, so that's kind of the game over sequence we have. Move them sort of away from the rest so we know those are together. Okay, let's run this and see if that's working properly. Okay, so we have our HP, it's being decreased whenever the enemy hits us. Now it's at 10, so one more time. Right, here we go. Time is slow down, fade out, restart. Okay, so it seems to be working quite well. Good, good.